Hey there, and welcome to another Wisdom Wednesday episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. I'm Dr. Ben,
And I'm Dr. Susanna.
and we are both naturopathic doctors who empower you to heal yourself through whole food, plant-based nutrition, as well as mind-body medicine. Because the fact is that only you can heal yourself. There is no other healer outside of you. Just people guiding and supporting you, and hopefully we can be a source of that information and inspiration. As always on these Wisdom Wednesday episodes, we love to discuss topics that are present, coming up in our world, topics around mind, thought, consciousness, and the impact of our state of mind on our state of health and physiology. We know how important and powerful that is. And today's topic is on victimhood and victim consciousness and freedom from the victim addiction as it is, because I don't know, but what about you, Susanna? But sometimes it does feel like there's this kind of addictive mindset falling into that victimhood.
It's certainly tempting. There's something that feels good about just, sometimes feels good to victimize ourselves.
Complain. And I would go as far to say that our society invites it and kind of perpetuates it, or at least maybe that's just me victimizing me, like being like I'm blaming it on society. But in any event, I guess the intention of our conversation today is to gain new sights and understanding of how we might be more free in the world, and in that experience more peace and full responsibility of our human experience.
Yeah, and I think right off the bat, I'd like to really just clarify what we mean by victimhood, because really what we're talking about is feeling as though we're a victim of our outside circumstances, moving through life with this outside in understanding of life that, we're just at the whim of whatever external circumstances are happening.
Yeah.
And that our human experience depends on how others treat us, or how well this goes, or how well that goes, or whether this goes our way or that goes our way, or whatever. And really, so when we're talking about being a victim, it's blaming the outside world, blaming the outside circumstances for how we feel, what our experience is.
And this is, of course, blaming the outside circumstances for our negative experiences, but also blaming our outside circumstances for our quote unquote positive experiences. Because the fact is, it is all generated from within. And it just reminds me of, hearing parents talk about their children. And of course, when their children are doing good and getting good grades and excelling in sports and extracurricular activities, the parent, I don't know, like there's this, like I've just seen parents like, oh, my kid is so wonderful and so great, and like kind of taking the responsibility, like I created such an awesome kid. And then of course the troublemaker comes out and bad grades, and it's like, oh well, and the fact is, I just bring this up because this is a little microcosmic example. The fact is, as far as I see it, the parent has zero responsibility over anything outside of themselves. Of course, their responsibility is to love and support, and but in terms of the outcomes, and of course, that's a little tangent, and we don't need to go off on parenting philosophy, but it just comes up in my thoughts when talking about taking responsibility for that which is not ours.
Yeah, but this topic came up as an idea to discuss today because, it just kind of occurred to me. I just kind of found myself chuckling at the most recent time that I was really upset. And in that upset, I was specifically blaming my upset on Ben. I think that's a common tendency of mine.
Well, for those listening in, you have to understand that there's very few other things that Susanna can blame it on, because I'm the only one around most of the time. So
But sometimes I'm, feeling down and I just blame it on circumstances. Like, oh, man, this isn't going my way, you know?
cloudy day. What the heck?
And I was just really chuckling how, whenever I find myself in that low mood, there is this temptation for me to want to go seek others out and, kind of vent and kind of, get some affirmation from them like, yeah, I would feel that way too if this happened to me, or if so and so said this to me. There's kind of this like, yeah, just this temptation to get that victimhood affirmation from the outside world. And it's funny because sometimes, if I'm down, I'm blaming my low mood on, some circumstances, and I actually go to you in attempts to do this, to feel a little bit of that kind of affirmation. Sometimes I'm actually met with Ben, coming from a very grounded place. Ben actually, will share something very insightful about the reality of the human experience and how mind, thought, and
Well,
consciousness create
okay.
that experience.
Uh,
But because I'm in my upset, I just want to punch Ben in the face.
mm,
Like, what? You can't see it the way that I see it? Are you telling me that I'm wrong and you know, that I'm wrong for being upset because this happened or that happened or this person said this to me?
do you want to give an example? Just like, because it seems all kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so what's an example?
Well,
Well,
just what happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I guess the most recent example I can think of is I was just kind of stewing in thoughts about, there's the kind of this project that I was wanting to move in a faster pace. I was kind of wanting this project to look different. It just wasn't coming out that way. It wasn't meeting my expectations. It wasn't meeting the timeline I wanted it to meet. And there's other people involved, so it's easy for me to kind of maybe even blame it on those other people who are involved. And, I kind of just remember, kind of just lamenting to you, like, oh, like I don't even know what I was looking to feel better. But
Is this the house stuff or?
no, this was a different work project that we were working on. I don't want to go into all the details here,
Okay.
Ben. Yeah, no. But anyway, I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to maybe give an opportunity to, get more tangible in how this might show up or how this has showed up for you. But I get it. Yeah. And so you're saying that sometimes other people in our world, in our life, the relationships that we have, it's almost like they can be codependents in this addictive relationship to victimhood and kind of feed it in a way. And that's tough. That's tough because it really makes it difficult to break the addiction to victimhood when we turn to a friend, a partner, and loved one. And of course, they're trying to offer us compassionate support, like, "Oh, I hear you, I feel you." But in doing so, oftentimes it's like, "Oh yeah, that person is so terrible. Oh yeah, that's such a bummer. Oh yeah, that's so so sad. Oh yeah, I can't believe that happened to you. Oh yeah, I can't believe this, that, blah, blah, blah." And I do these kind of things also, but I find myself more and more of them these days, kind of just holding the space. And I used to think that holding the space included that verbalizing compassionate words, whatever sounded good. But that's not what holding the space is. Holding the space is holding the space for someone to be
Feeling what they're feeling.
feeling what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And that reminds me just of what compassion really means. Compassion doesn't mean sympathizing, right? Compassion doesn't mean like, saying I'm sorry. Compassion means being with suffering. Passion means suffering. Compassion means with suffering. So with suffering, we're just there with suffering. We don't need to do anything, and being there with suffering, especially from kind of a grounded, understanding place, we can support ourselves and others in kind of seeing. Maybe it's not our responsibility to cause someone else to see something that they don't see, but we can at least hold the vibe of truth. That's what I feel like my intention is. Not that I'm like perfect in it, but we can hold the vibe of truth. And what that means is that the truth of the human experience and where our experience is generated from. So no more blaming.
Yeah. Yeah, and really, what made me chuckle as I was kind of reflecting on these more recent times, where I was victimizing myself and was getting feedback from Ben, more of just like the truth of the matter. In the upset, the truth sounded like offensive to me. No, the truth was triggering.
Well,
And I just want to point this out because I think sometimes we actually don't see the support of the universe. We don't see the support of someone who is grounded and truthful. Because really what we're seeking is, once again, that affirmation of yeah, I am just a victim of outside circumstances. It's that egoic tendency. Yeah, and so just kind of bringing that to light, you know, just we like to speak from our own experiences here because when it comes to kind of deepening in this understanding of really knowing what does create the human experience, it's like, well, yeah, we're just uncovering these layers and layers and layers, and every time I see something just in a little bit of a deeper way, I like to express that. I like to share that here because it calls out my silly egoic tendencies.
yeah, it allows you to anchor something so that um, we don't catch ourselves more often perpetuating something that we know is silly and inconsistent and not in the vibe of truth.
Mhm. Yeah. And maybe something in the sharing, something that I share, you can see also in your life, in your experience as well.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's so freeing. It's so freeing. For me to really look back on those experiences and see like, wow, no. Ben was really in the truth in those moments. Ben was speaking from the truth in those moments. Um, it's humbling, like the ego dissolves immediately. And yeah, it's just it's kind of like next time that might happen, if it happens again, I can more easily recognize like, oh wow, I'm just being triggered because
Yeah.
I'm being faced with something that is actually true.
That
where I would rather just stay in my story of victimhood.
well, that of course brings up a big thing, like, oh, because we conceptually, intellectually understand that it's good to not be a victim and it's good to take responsibility. Just because we understand that doesn't mean that we're going to move through life without ever dropping into victim thinking and without taking full responsibility. Like, we're always going to be teetering on this line of choice, moment to moment. Am I taking responsibility? What am I not taking responsibility for? And it's like it is a moment to moment choice that we are making, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. And to me, it's just a matter of bringing more conscious awareness to the choice of taking full responsibility or not. And the by default, for me at least, the default is to drop into victim. So it's like, um again, blaming blaming society, blaming circumstances, It's like, oh, people are, there's just this tendency to not take responsibility. So it's kind of like a little bit of what am I trying to say? A little bit of resistance is generally there when it comes to stepping into full responsibility. It's never that easy. But I love when you brought up, Susanna, how the truth can kind of be triggering, and how interesting that is, that truth is triggering. And I think that just brings up a good kind of universal principle that I think is healthy to consider. And that is just the nature of the trigger. Whenever there's that experience, that trigger, to really get curious about where that's coming from, because of course it's never the circumstance on the other side of the trigger. Because, oh, I don't know. I'm having a hard time coming up with an example. There's too many really like triggering examples.
Well, no, I mean,
But
I can
yeah,
I just offer something? I
yeah.
mean, I think it's really interesting because I think all the times that I've really been triggered by the truth, or I've witnessed other people being kind of triggered by the truth when like three principles or mind, thought, and consciousness are being discussed. From a grounded place, if I'm listening from a grounded place, that message of truth is always really empowering. It's about stepping out of victimhood. It's about the freedom that we feel when we do take responsibility for our experience. It's about trusting universal wisdom. It's about trusting, the divine timeline of things. It's about not, having expectations and just surrendering to what is. And to me, from this place, saying all of that stuff feels very wonderful and empowering and everything. So it's interesting how and why that might actually really continue to anger someone when they hear stuff like that.
Well, it's just a great
It's
testament.
threatening to the ego.
It's just a great testament to how, someone can speak truth, and then the reception of that message can be triggering based on the state of mind that it meets it. It's like there's this message sent, and it's like this message can be sent with love and groundedness and truth. And then if there's an irritated, cluttered, state of mind that receives it, then that's going to be threatening. That's going to be threatening. And,
threatening to the story, threatening to the ego, threatening
whatever,
yeah.
Whatever. And I think that just brings up, what I was saying about the kind of principle of feeling triggered, which we are experts. We are our own individual experts about what it feels like to feel triggered, right? And how, we can deny the fact that we're triggered. Like I have a tendency to do that. Like, oh no, I'm not triggered, I'm fine. But it's like, of course there is like, but we're the only one. We're like our own fine connoisseur of the triggered sensation. And when we experience that, and whatever that feels like, that is just such an incredible opportunity to really get curious and consider taking full responsibility in that moment. Because again, the source of the trigger, so to speak, is never the problem. Right? Because I don't know, like if someone, I don't know, I'm having a hard time coming up with an example, but if someone
Took the last ripple milk.
took the last ripple milk at the store,
Mm-hmm.
then there's infinite responses to what that means, right? It's like someone can be really upset, and then the next person is like, oh well, I'll try this one. Oh, what a great opportunity. I'll try the almond milk or whatever. It's not that's maybe not the best example, because there's very few examples of a clean dairy-free milk thing. But gosh, in any case, I think the moral of the story here is just, really getting curious about how we can expand into greater responsibility, which, the just like the healing of physical symptoms that we're often talking about in our practice is not like a linear timeline. It's not like, oh, by January of next year we're going to be symptom free, absolutely, and we're going to be in optimal health forever. Optimal health and healing is a perpetual process. It's a journey, it's not a destination. And I think the same is for sure the case when it comes to our peace of mind. It's a journey. Peace of mind is not a destination. And peace of mind, that journey, in being more peaceful, I really do feel like comes moment to moment from taking full responsibility, and because it feels really empowering to do that.
Yeah. And I would just invite everyone who is listening and who is getting, curious, wants to get more curious about, when they fall into victimhood or versus when they're really taking full responsibility. Like, yeah, just start looking all the little ways. I mean, if I really start looking at all the little ways, and I can think of examples for you too, Ben, but it's like, oh my gosh, there's little micro victimizations all throughout the day. Oh, like exactly. I went to the store, there's no Ripple milk. Ugh, my day's gonna suck because there's no Ripple milk. Like, oh my gosh, now it's snowing. I'm a victim of the snow.
It snowed this morning.
So and so isn't, so and so's 30 minutes late. This is ruining my whole day. Like,
Yeah.
gosh.
It's funny because I'm having a hard time coming up with examples. At least it's almost 1:30, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's been a pretty good morning in terms of me not being a victim.
Oh, well, you're irritated because we are in the process of building a house, and you're like, why is this so, like, this should be easier? Like, why is it so hard to communicate with these other people about this and this? So there was a little bit of that.
Yeah, I do have some self-judgment about feeling like a complete idiot when it comes to things that I've never done before. I feel like I should know how to do things that I've never done. But in any case.
But anyway, just, yeah. I mean, have fun. Have fun with looking at the little micro victimizations.
Yeah.
I have fun with it. It generally makes me laugh when I realize, like, oh my gosh, I literally blame everything for my moment to moment mood.
That's that's a cool little shortcut of cracking into an open mind, right? Is seeing the humor, right? Because we can, and then like there's a joke, and then it's just like, whew.
Am I really gonna let plant milk ruin my whole entire day?
How silly we can be in our human experience. So that's a good little hack, if you will.
Right.
Not to say that humor is always available, but it might be. Get curious. So anyways, thanks for hanging out for another Wisdom Wednesday, and thanks for being open-minded with us and ditching the victim addiction to the curb.
Yeah, and announcement, because we do have something really big coming up, which is our live cohort of Thrive on Plants that starts on May 10th. It's not too late to join if you want that live accountability, live education, live professional support.
It's gonna be awesome.
For the next 12 weeks, we are diving deep into understanding how whole food plant-based eating supports you in reversing your disease and supporting you in really implementing it in your life as well.
And I think we're going to be maybe integrating and weaving in some more mindset stuff in that. We haven't really fully talked about that and finalized that yet, but there's a good likelihood, because the fact is that our state of mind is the most powerful predictor of our health and healing, more so than food. So we need to really, talk about it more. So anyways, if you'd like to learn more about this opportunity that's starting really soon, and you shouldn't be hesitating at all, go to www.altered.health. And I'm sure you can navigate your way to find more information about the Thrive on Plants program.
Mm-hmm.
Peace and love, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.